Okay, let's just say it. Why do so many speech language pathologists feel broke? You have a master's degree, a full-time job, you followed all the rules, and yet somehow you're still living paycheck to paycheck. Or it feels that way. But why? Yes, student loans are definitely a part of it, so is the pay, so is the system, but there's also something deeper going on. The way we think about money, progress, and what it means to be just okay. If you have ever looked at your bank account or your Sally Mae loan login or your rent payment and thought, how is this my life? You are not alone. This video, it's not just about the numbers. It's about what those numbers mean and what we can actually do about it. So let's start here. What does it actually mean to feel broke? Most of us, it's not a fixed number. It's not like, I feel broke because I only make X amount a year. Because here's the kicker. Ask someone how much money would be enough, and most people don't have a clear answer. I actually asked my Instagram audience over at Speech Goods, make sure you're following, what they feel like would be enough, and I got a variety of answers. Some people said $100,000 a year. Some people said, oh, I need over $200,000 a year. And a few people actually direct message me saying, I don't know how much I need, but I know it's more than what I'm making right now, which I get that. I really like Ramit Sethi's work. He's a big wig in the financial space, and a big part of his brand is asking, what is your rich life? What makes you feel rich? And quite often, it's not tied to a specific net worth or a certain amount of money in the bank. It's very emotional. It's about how you feel about money. It's about these invisible scripts that you bring from your childhood, cultural expectations, and just your past experiences with money. And for a lot of us as SLPs, that emotional side is very heavy. So here's where it gets real. Most speech pathologists are technically pretty middle class. We're making somewhere between $60,000 and $90,000 a year if you're full-time and depending on your setting. If you want more breakdown on the expected salary for SLPs, I do have a video on that. And that is above the US median household income. And that doesn't even count if you have a spouse or partner and they're adding their income into the mix. So why does it feel like we're living paycheck to paycheck? Why do so many of us feel like we can't breathe financially? Here's a few reasons I've seen from talking with my fellow clinicians. Some of these may or may not apply to you, but definitely let me know in the comments if any of these resonate with you, because I truly want to make sure we keep these conversations going. Reason number one, student loan debt. You probably guessed this. You finish grad school, you land your first job, maybe making $55,000 to $70,000 a year, but then the student loan payments hit. You may have $30,000, $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 plus in student loan debt. Depending on what your repayment plan is, your monthly loan payment could range anywhere from $300 to over $1,000 a month. And that's on top of potentially rising rent, groceries, gas, insurance, maybe even childcare, which we know is so cheap. And sure, you're technically earning enough to get by. Most of us as SLPs are probably not getting our electricity and water turned off, but every dollar that goes into your account immediately has to go somewhere else. And that somewhere else is not your pocket or your savings account. And it is so hard to breathe that way financially, let alone build in here. That creates this psychological drag. And for many of us, we had barely started our career and we already felt behind. You worked so hard for this degree, you did everything right, whatever the heck that means, but now you're in a field that demanded advanced education, oftentimes without advanced salary to match. I get DMs and hear stories from therapists that when they were applying to graduate school, they only got into one graduate program. And the one graduate program they got into was the Rolls-Royce BMW luxury sedan of graduate schools that cost $60,000 or $70,000 a year just for tuition, because who needs to eat and we can live under a bridge, right? And we are fed this narrative that you have to get the degree no matter the cost. Just get the degree, get the degree, get the degree. But then we get to the other side and we're hit with what it actually cost us. And it can feel like we were lied to, even if you love the job that you have. The work we do isn't easy, and it's life-changing for so many that we work with. And yet many of us feel like We're constantly choosing between paying off debt and saving for the future. And that disconnect starts to wear on you. And that disconnect is so personal. That's where that broke feeling comes in. Because being broke isn't always about the number in your bank account. It's also about what that number represents. Lack of safety, lack of options, lack of just progress. So even if you're making a decent salary by national standards, it can still feel like you're not really getting anywhere, especially if your degree came with a 6-figure price tag. And of course, no one in grad school ever talked about money, which is like 99% of why my channel and my Instagram exist, because in order for us to get any kind of systematic change, these things need to be talked about. But that is a soapbox for a later episode. Okay, reason number 2 that you're feeling broke. You're judging your entire financial life by your checking account balance. This particular point I find very interesting, and I even see myself sometimes getting caught up in this one. Let's say you've got $212 in your account and 4 days until payday. Yeah, that might mean that you're broke right now, but sometimes it's more layered than that. You might also have money going into a Roth IRA, 401k, 403b. You might be putting extra money towards paying off student loans or building an emergency fund, all of which are good things. But in this moment, your day-to-day money feels tight, and that tightness feels like a failure. You open your banking app and you think, how am I doing all of the right things and still feeling like I'm behind? But here's the thing. Feeling squeezed in the moment doesn't always mean you're bad with money. It might just mean you don't have a system that supports how your money needs to flow. A low balance isn't a moral failing or just always proof that you're irresponsible. Sometimes it just means that your income, bills, savings, and spendings are out of sync. And the great thing is that is totally solvable. So instead of seeing it as a failure, which SLP personalities do great with failure, see it as information. It's a signal that something needs to shift. Maybe how you time your savings or other monthly bills, how you track your spending. That's why having a simple system can make a massive difference in how you feel about your money day to day. And I do talk about the nitty gritty, actually managing your money on my Instagram, and I am going to be making more videos to add to this channel about the nitty gritty, so make sure you're subscribed. But sometimes in order for us to get to a point where we feel like we can actually face those nitty gritty details of managing our money, we have to really break through that emotional barrier that's keeping us from facing it. And that's what this is really about. Reason number 3, SLPs feel broke, which SLPs are so good at. I like to call it the guilt spending avoidance circle. Let's talk about the spending guilt first. Now look, I am not here to judge your coffee, your takeout. I am the first to admit the latte typically tastes better when somebody else makes it for me. And your budget should have room for things that you enjoy. But here's the part that we have to face. If you're sitting on $100,000 in student loan debt, you're barely paying your minimums, you have absolutely no debt payoff plan, and you're door dashing 4 to 5 times a week, it's not about judgment. It's about how that way of conducting your life is not only unsustainable, but detrimental. I am not judging you. I am truly afraid for my fellow clinicians in similar situations like that. And it's not this judgment of morality. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put it out there. No one is morally superior because they don't have debt or because they have less debt than someone else. It's more about, I see the amazing potential life that you can have with a different set of decisions. And it kills me to watch wonderful people throw away that opportunity when a rich life that is full of abundance is so attainable for many of us and within our control. So we as humans are wired to avoid things that hurt us, okay? The things that make us feel bad. At some point, a cave woman stuck her hand in a fire, and of course it hurt, so what did she do? She no longer put her hand in the fire. But imagine where would we be if she stopped using it and cooking with it altogether, right? There's this cultural message that spending money is bad and that I should stop spending money for no other reason than everyone tells me I should stop spending money. Therefore, you spend and you feel guilty. And so confronting your money habits and money situation makes you feel guilty. Guilt makes us feel bad. Therefore, we avoid thinking about our money situation so we don't have to feel bad. And then you just end up in this crazy circle of spend, guilt, avoidance, spend, guilt, avoidance, spend, guilt, avoidance, and over again. And you just end up getting nowhere. After talking with many other SLPs, this is what I believe. You don't necessarily feel guilty because you bought something. It's because you bought something and you didn't plan for it. And now your spending and how you feel about your spending is anchored in what culture tells us about spending versus the goals that you set for yourself. Because I will tell you, I have zero guilt about spending my money. Whether it's a small amount on a latte or we wrote a really nice sized check to get a patio extension in the back of our house, which we paid cash for. But I didn't feel guilt about any of that because we made a plan for how we were going to save up for the large purchase of the patio extension. Yet we've also got a plan for how much money I'm going to get to spend for my fun money or guilt-free spending. So yeah, I don't feel bad at all. We often avoid facing the real numbers in our finances because we think it'll feel worse or honestly just because we're kind of scared. Sometimes it's easier to just ignore this abstract monster we think is in our closet than to actually walk up to the closet, over up, pop up our chest, open the door, and face whatever the heck is in there. But in truth, ignoring it just prolongs the stress, and I think deep down we all know that. For people in our field specifically, we know early intervention is key with our patients, right? How many speech therapy posts and reels are out there about how annoyed we are when pediatricians tell us to just wait and see when kids are having difficulties? Well, let's apply that same thinking to our financial situations. You deserve comfort and fun, yes, but you also deserve a plan that helps you to sleep at night, not one that leaves you hoping on a wing and a prayer that the overdraft fee doesn't hit before payday. And this isn't about cutting every joy out of your life. It's about getting clear on what you value and building a system that lets you spend money without feeling stinking bad about it. Because when you give every dollar a job, even the fun job, you stop feeling like your life is completely out of control. Here's a hard truth. A lot of SLPs feel stuck because we were sold this idea that degree equals stability, security, fulfillment, rainbow unicorns, and all the things. And yet, here many of us are, overworked, potentially underpaid, and wondering what the heck happened. But sometimes the feeling of being broke isn't about not having enough. It's about not having control. We want control of our income, control of our future, and the freedom to stop burning out just to pay the bills. And that's why I really want to make sure to talk about contentment. Because without it, we are blindly chasing the next job, the next level of productivity, the next therapy technique, because we feel like we're just not good enough, even though we've spent thousands of dollars and hours on school and education, but never getting to feel like we're actually just good. Amidst this whole hustle culture and the type A personalities that are very often associated with speech language pathologists, and I'm just gonna say it, the field is mostly women, and the societal pressures of this idea of having it all, of having the career, the family, running the business, being the boss babe, and being everything for everyone, when that much pressure is put on us and we set a standard that is impossible for us to meet, contentment will not and cannot happen. And if you're feeling that, it is so okay to name it. I really had to learn this, especially when I entered into motherhood. That was a big turning point for me. I had to completely stop with speech goods and this whole part of my life for 2 years because I just wasn't able to mentally handle it. And in that time, I really had to learn that contentment doesn't mean complacency. Contentment doesn't mean giving up or settling. It's about being proud of the progress you've made, even if you're not at the finish line yet, as well as being able to find peace while still moving forward at a pace that is sustainable for you in whatever season of life that you are in. And learning that for myself just gave me so much more peace and just being able to feel okay. I'm gonna be the first one to say, I am not here to sell you toxic positivity. Just blindly entering the world like rainbows and leprechauns will magically appear out of your bottom. It's not my style. So if that's what you're looking for, I ain't it for you, boo. There are many things that we can't control, but here's the truth. You're not powerless. You can start tracking your net worth, even if it's in the red right now. You can create a debt payoff plan that fits your reality, not some perfect convoluted blah spreadsheet. You can explore ways to increase your income, whether that's picking up PRN shifts, seeing private clients, or making materials if that's what you like. I suck at that. You can still find joy and peace without giving into the YOLO idea of, well, I might as well enjoy it now because life's gonna suck later anyway. Hope isn't pretending everything is fine while your house is literally burning to the ground behind you. It's believing things can change and that you can have a say in how they change. If you want to dive deeper into these steps, like exactly how to build a debt payoff plan or start side gigs as an SLP, I am working on videos for just that. So be sure you're subscribed and following on Instagram so you get all the updates. Because financial freedom isn't just this someday goal. It's built by taking meaningful and consistent steps right now, like now. And those will add up much faster than you think. So just some final thoughts. Why do so many SLPs feel broke? Because we're carrying a heavy debt load, high expectations, and sometimes a gap between what we imagine this career would be and what it actually looks like. But being broke isn't just about the numbers, okay? It's about how money feels to us and how much control you have over your own story and situation. You won't be able to change the big systemic issues overnight, okay? And those changes are fully needed. I'm not ignoring that. But you can get control over your finances, feel confident in your choices, and create space for true contentment instead of just blindly hoping that things will turn out okay. Let me know in the comments. What are things in your life that make you feel like you're broke? I'm super curious to hear what you have to say. And if you want more no fluff money talk for SLPs, budgeting, income, student loans, all the things, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and follow me on Instagram at SpeechGoods. Because at the end of the day, ain't nobody coming to save us, friends. But we don't have to save ourselves alone either. Now, go do the dang thing.